The cold December wind cut through downtown Austin as a figure shuffled slowly along the cracked sidewalk. His clothes were torn and dirty, a worn baseball cap pulled low over his face, and a thick beard covered most of his features. To anyone passing by, he looked like just another homeless person struggling to survive on the streets. But beneath that disguise was Elon Musk, the world's richest man, conducting a secret social experiment. For months, Elon had been thinking about the growing gap between the wealthy and the poor. Despite his incredible success with Tesla, SpaceX, and other ventures, he felt disconnected from the everyday struggles of ordinary people. The idea came to him during a late-night Twitter session when he read heartbreaking stories about homelessness in America. He realized that despite donating millions to charity, he had never truly understood what it felt like to be invisible, ignored, and judged by society. So he made a decision that shocked even his closest advisors. He would spend a week living as a homeless person, with no money, no phone, and no way for anyone to recognize him. His security team was horrified, but Elon was determined. He hired a professional makeup artist who specialized in movie disguises, and together they created a completely new identity. The transformation was incredible. Special prosthetics changed the shape of his nose and jawline. Contact lenses altered his eye color from blue to brown. The makeup artist added realistic scars and weathered skin to his face. Most importantly, they grew out his hair and beard for weeks beforehand, then styled it to look unkempt and dirty. When the disguise was complete, even his own mother wouldn't have recognized him. On a freezing Monday morning, Elon began his experiment. He started at a homeless shelter downtown where he learned the basic rules of survival on the streets. Other homeless individuals taught him where to find food, which areas were safe to sleep in, and how to avoid trouble with police. What struck him most was their kindness toward each other, despite having so little. The first few days were incredibly difficult. Elon had never experienced real hunger before, or the bone-deep cold that comes from sleeping outside. His feet developed blisters from walking in cheap, ill-fitting shoes. His back ached from sleeping on concrete. But the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the emotional pain of being completely ignored by society. People would cross the street to avoid him. Store owners would watch him suspiciously, assuming he was going to steal something. Children would stare while their parents quickly pulled them away. The few times someone did acknowledge his existence, it was usually to tell him to move along or to offer criticism about his life choices. The dehumanization was complete and devastating. By the fourth day, Elon was questioning whether he could continue the experiment. His body was exhausted, his spirit was broken, and he was beginning to understand homelessness in a way no amount of money could teach. He had learned that being homeless wasn't just about lacking shelter. It was about becoming invisible, losing your dignity, and being treated as less than human. That evening, as snow began to fall, Elon found himself standing outside Mel's Diner, a small 24-hour restaurant on the outskirts of town. The warm light spilling from the windows looked like heaven to his tired eyes. He had exactly $3.47 that he had found on the street over the past few days. It was enough for a cup of coffee, maybe a piece of toast. More importantly, it was a chance to get warm and rest his aching feet for a few hours. Elon hesitated at the door of Mel's Diner, knowing what would likely happen when he walked inside. The past 4 days had taught him that most businesses didn't welcome people who looked like him. He had been kicked out of 3 different restaurants, 2 gas stations, and even a public library. But the cold was becoming unbearable, and he desperately needed somewhere warm to sit. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door. A small bell chimed, and immediately every head in the diner turned to look at him. The conversation stopped. A businessman in an expensive suit wrinkled his nose in disgust. A family with young children quickly looked away, the mother pulling her kids closer to her. An elderly couple whispered to each other while staring at him with obvious disapproval. The waitress behind the counter was a woman in her 50s named Maria. She had kind eyes but looked tired, like someone who had worked double shifts her entire life. When she saw Elon, her expression didn't change to disgust like the others. Instead, she simply nodded toward an empty booth in the back corner. "You can sit over there, honey," she said quietly. "But I need to tell you up front. If you don't have money to pay, I can't serve you food. I'm sorry, but those are the rules." Elon shuffled to the corner booth, acutely aware that everyone was still watching him. The businessman loudly complained to his companion about these people being allowed in decent establishments. The family quickly finished their meal and left, the father dropping money on the table without waiting for change. The elderly couple moved to a booth farther away, making sure Elon could see their disapproval. When Maria came over with a coffee pot, Elon quietly placed his $3.47 on the table. "Is this enough for coffee and maybe some toast?" he asked in a raspy voice, trying to disguise his normal speaking tone. Maria looked at the crumpled bills and loose change, then at Elon's face. Something in his eyes made her pause. Despite the dirt and the disguise, there was an intelligence. There. A depth that didn't match his appearance. She had been a waitress for 30 years and had developed a sixth sense about people. "Coffee's $2, she said, though the menu clearly showed it cost $2.50. "Toast is $1. That leaves you with some change." She poured the coffee and headed back to the kitchen. While she was gone, Elon observed the other customers. The businessman was on his phone, loudly discussing a deal worth millions of dollars. He complained about his wife spending too much on Christmas shopping, even though the amount he mentioned was more than most people made in a year. The irony wasn't lost on Elon. Here he was, disguised as a homeless person, listening to a man who probably made in a month what Elon made in minutes. Maria returned with not just toast, but a full plate of eggs, bacon, and hash browns. When Elon looked at her in confusion, she simply said, "Kitchen made too much. It was going to waste anyway." She refilled his coffee cup and gave him a gentle pat on the shoulder before walking away. For the first time in days, Elon felt truly grateful. Not the abstract gratitude he had known as a wealthy man, but the deep, overwhelming gratitude that comes from genuine need being met by genuine kindness. He ate slowly, savoring every bite, while Maria continued to check on him throughout the evening. As the night wore on, the diner gradually emptied until it was just Elon, Maria, and the night cook. Maria came over with the coffee pot again, even though Elon's cup was still half full. "You know," she said quietly, sitting down across from him, "I've been working here for 15 years. I've seen a lot of people come through that door. Some are just down on their luck. Some are running from something, and some are hiding from who they really are." She looked directly into his eyes. "You're different from most folks who come in here looking like you do." Elon's heart started racing. Had she recognized him somehow? Was his disguise not as good as he thought? "Different how?" he asked carefully. Maria smiled. "You eat like someone who's genuinely hungry, but you sit like someone who's used to being in charge. You watch people like you're studying them, not looking for an opportunity. And your hands," she glanced down at his hands wrapped around the coffee mug. "Those aren't the hands of someone who's been living rough for very long." Elon felt his disguise cracking under Maria's perceptive gaze. This woman had seen through what professional makeup artists and weeks of preparation had created. But instead of fear, he felt curiosity. Who was this waitress who could read people so well? "I'm not who I appear to be," Elon admitted carefully, still not ready to reveal his true identity. "But I'm not dangerous. I'm just trying to understand something." Maria nodded as if this confirmed what she already suspected. "We all are, honey. Life's just one big experiment in understanding, isn't it?" She refilled his cup again. "I figured you weren't really homeless when you said thank you after every sip of coffee. Most folks who've been on the streets for a while, They don't waste energy on pleasantries. They're too focused on survival. Over the next hour, Maria shared her story. She had 2 kids, both in college, and worked 2 jobs to pay their tuition. Her husband had died in a car accident 5 years earlier, leaving her with medical bills that wiped out their savings. She had come close to losing her house twice, but never gave up. Despite her struggles, she still found ways to help others whenever she could. "That businessman who was complaining earlier," Maria said, gesturing toward where he had been sitting. "He comes in here 3 times a week, talks about his money problems while wearing a watch that costs more than I make in 6 months. But, you know what? I still serve him with a smile because everybody's fighting something." Elon was amazed by her perspective. Here was someone who had every reason to be bitter about inequality, yet she treated everyone with dignity. "How do you stay so positive?" he asked. "Because I've learned that how you treat people says nothing about them and everything about you," Maria replied. "That businessman might have more money than me, but he's not happier. And you sitting here in those torn clothes, you're more polite and grateful than most people who come in wearing suits." As the night stretched on, other customers came and went. Each time someone new entered, Elon watched their reactions to him with new understanding. A young couple sat down and immediately asked to be moved to a different section. A truck driver ordered coffee and completely ignored Elon's existence. A group of college students made jokes loud enough for him to hear. But Maria treated every interaction the same way, with professional kindness and quiet dignity. She never made customers feel bad for their reactions to Elon, but she also never made Elon feel like he had to hide or leave. She simply created a space where everyone was served equally. Around midnight, a teenage girl came in alone. She looked nervous and kept checking her phone. When she ordered just a hot chocolate with the few dollars she had, Maria brought her a sandwich too, using the same excuse about kitchen extras. The girl ate gratefully, and Elon realized he was witnessing something special, a network of quiet kindness that existed beneath society's surface. "You do this often?" Elon asked Maria when she came back to check on him. "Do what?" "Take care of people who need it." Maria shrugged. "My mama always said that kindness doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything. Besides, you never know who you're helping. That teenager over there might grow up to cure cancer. That homeless guy who comes in on Tuesdays might have wisdom that could change someone's life. You," she looked at him meaningfully, "might be someone who could make a real difference in this world if the right person believed in you." Her words hit Elon like a lightning bolt. Here he was, one of the most powerful people on the planet, disguised as someone society had written off. Yet this waitress, who earned in a year what he made in minutes, was treating him with more dignity and respect than he received in most of his business meetings. What if someone had the power to help people like that teenager? Or the regulars you mentioned? Elon asked carefully. What would you want them to do? Maria thought for a moment. I'd want them to remember that every person they help is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's whole world. It's not about the money you give. It's about seeing people as human beings who deserve respect and opportunity. She paused. But mostly, I'd want them to understand that being poor doesn't make you less intelligent, less worthy, or less capable of amazing things. It just makes you invisible to most people. At that moment, Elon realized that his experiment had taught him more than he ever expected. It wasn't just about understanding poverty or homelessness. It was about understanding the fundamental human need to be seen, to be valued, and to be treated with dignity regardless of circumstances. As the early morning hours approached, the diner became quieter. The teenage girl had left with a smile and a quiet, "Thank you," to Maria. A few late-night workers grabbed coffee to go. Elon found himself in an increasingly intimate conversation with this remarkable waitress who had no idea she was talking to one of the world's most famous entrepreneurs. "Tell me about your kids," Elon said, genuinely interested. Maria's face lit up immediately. "My daughter Sarah is studying to be a nurse. She's in her 3rd year at community college, works part-time at a grocery store to help with expenses. She pulled out her phone to show a picture of a young woman in scrubs. My son Marcus is studying computer programming. He's got this dream of working for one of those big tech companies someday, maybe even Tesla or SpaceX. She laughed. He's always talking about Elon Musk and how the man is going to change the world. Elon nearly choked on his coffee. The irony was overwhelming. Here was Maria's son, dreaming of working for him, while she served coffee to him in disguise, not knowing who he was. What does Marcus want to do at those companies? Elon asked, trying to keep his voice steady. He's fascinated by sustainable energy and space exploration. Says he wants to help build a better future for everyone. Maria's pride was evident. He's been coding since he was 12, taught himself everything from online tutorials because we couldn't afford fancy computer classes. Last month, he won a programming competition at his college. Elon felt a surge of respect for this young man he'd never met. Self-taught programmers often had the most innovative thinking, unconstrained by traditional education limitations. Sounds like a bright kid. He is. Both my kids are. That's why I work so hard, not just to pay for their education, but to show them that no dream is too big if you're willing to work for it. Maria refilled his cup again. What about you? Any family? The question caught Elon off guard. In his real life, discussions about his family were carefully managed by publicists and lawyers. But here, in this honest space Maria had created, he found himself wanting to share something real. I have children, he said carefully. Sometimes I worry that my work keeps me from being the father I want to be. I want to change the world for them, but I wonder if they'd rather just have more of my time. Maria nodded knowingly. That's every parent's struggle. We all want to give our kids everything, but sometimes what they need most is just us, our attention, our presence, our belief in them. She sat down across from him again. The fact that you're even thinking about it means you're a better parent than you give yourself credit for. Around 3 a.m., an elderly man shuffled into the diner. He was clearly homeless, genuinely so, not disguised like Elon. His clothes were layers of mismatched items, and he smelled of the streets. He approached the counter with obvious hesitation. "Excuse me, miss," he said to Maria in a shaky voice. "I don't have any money, but I was wondering if you might have any leftover food. I haven't eaten in 2 days." Elon watched carefully to see how Maria would respond. Without hesitation, she said, "Of course, honey. Sit anywhere you'd like. Let me see what I can find in the kitchen." She brought the man a full meal, soup, sandwich, pie, and coffee. When he tried to thank her, she waved him off. "We're all just people trying to get by," she said simply. Elon was struck by the contrast between how this genuinely homeless man was received versus his own treatment in other establishments over the past few days. Maria's kindness was consistent and genuine, not dependent on someone's appearance or ability to pay. The homeless man, whose name was George, struck up a conversation with Elon. "You're new to the streets," George observed. "I can tell. You still have hope in your eyes." "How long have you been homeless?" Elon asked. 3 years. Lost my job when the factory closed, then lost my apartment, then lost pretty much everything. Else, George spoke matter-of-factly, without self-pity. "But you know what I've learned? People like Maria here, they're angels walking among us. She's fed me probably 50 times over the past year, never once made me feel ashamed or unwelcome." George went on to tell stories of Maria's kindness. How she had given him a warm coat last winter. How she sometimes let him sleep in the diner's back booth during particularly cold nights. How she had helped him get connected with social services. "She's got less than most people," George said, "but she gives more than anyone I've ever known. Her kids are lucky to have her as an example." Elon found himself thinking about wealth and generosity in a completely new way. He had donated millions to charities, but it was impersonal, distant. Maria's generosity cost her much more proportionally, but it was intimate, personal, and immediate. She saw the human being in front of her and responded with her heart, not just her wallet. As dawn began to break, Elon realized his experiment was coming to an end. He had learned more in this one night at Mel's diner than in months of board meetings and financial reports. But more than that, he had met someone who embodied the kind of human values he wanted his companies to represent. As the first rays of sunlight streamed through the diner windows, Elon knew he had to make a decision. His experiment had taught him everything he needed to know and more. But sitting across from Maria, watching her treat every customer with equal dignity, he realized that ending this experience would be one of the hardest things he'd ever done. George had fallen asleep in his booth, and Maria had covered him with a spare jacket without being asked. The morning shift was beginning to arrive. Another waitress, a new cook, and the familiar rhythm of a new day starting. Maria would be getting off work soon, heading home to catch a few hours of sleep before starting her second job at a local grocery store. "Maria," Elon said quietly, "I need to tell you something." She looked at him with those perceptive eyes that had seen through his disguise from the beginning. "I figured this moment would come," she said. "You've been building up to something all night." Elon took a deep breath. The weight of his decision felt enormous. Revealing his identity would change everything. For Maria, for the diner, possibly for her family. But keeping the secret felt like a betrayal of the trust she had. "Shown him, I'm not who you think I am," he began. "My name isn't Joe, and I'm not really homeless." Maria nodded slowly. "I knew that much. The question is, who are you really, and why did you choose to spend your night here?" Before Elon could answer, his phone, which he had kept hidden and silent throughout the experiment, began buzzing urgently. His security team had been tracking him discreetly from a distance, and something was wrong. He reluctantly pulled out the device, and Maria's eyes widened when she saw it was the latest iPhone in a custom case. "I have to take this," Elon said apologetically. The call was from his head of security, informing him that there was a situation at one of his facilities that required his immediate attention. As he spoke in low tones, giving instructions about technical problems that only he could solve, Maria listened with growing amazement. When he hung up, Maria was staring at him with a mixture of confusion and dawning recognition. "The way you just talked about rocket propulsion systems and battery technology," she said slowly. "And that voice, now that you're not disguising it." Elon pulled off his baseball cap and ran his hands through his hair, beginning to remove some of the simpler elements of his disguise. "Maria, I'm Elon Musk." The coffee pot in Maria's hand trembled slightly, but she didn't drop it. She sat down heavily in the booth across from him, studying his face as the disguise became less effective in the morning light. The Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk? "Yes," Elon said simply. "I spent the last 5 days living on the streets, trying to understand what it really means to be invisible in our society. Tonight, in your diner, I learned more about humanity than I have in years." Maria was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. "Well, that explains why you ate like you were starving, but held your coffee cup like you were at a board meeting. You're not angry that I deceived you?" "Honey, everyone who walks through that door is hiding something. Some people hide behind expensive clothes and fancy cars. You hid behind torn jeans and a fake beard. But the person I talked to all night, the one who listened to my stories, who cared about my kids, who treated George with respect, that person was real, wasn't it?" Elon nodded. "More real than I've been in years." Maria stood up and poured herself a cup of coffee for the first time all night. "So why are you telling me now? You could have just left and I would never have known." "Because what you said about Seeing people as human beings, about everyone deserving respect and opportunity, that changed something in me. And because your son Marcus dreams of working for my companies, and I think he should get that chance. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. You know about Marcus? You told me about him. The self-taught programmer who wants to help build a better future. I'd like to meet him. But why? You don't owe us anything. I was just doing my job. Elon shook his head. You were doing much more than your job. You were showing me what real leadership looks like. It's not about having power over people. It's about using whatever power you have to lift people up. At that moment, George stirred in his booth. Maria immediately went over to check on him, bringing him fresh coffee and asking how he was feeling. Watching her, Elon made another decision, one that would surprise even him. Maria, he said, when she returned, I want to offer you a job. She looked at him skeptically. Doing what? I'm a waitress with a high school education, being exactly who you are. I need someone to help me remember that every decision I make affects real people with real lives. I need someone who can see through disguises and get to the truth of who people really are. He paused. I need someone to keep me human. Maria stared at Elon for a long moment, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. You're serious, aren't you? Completely serious. I've been looking for someone to head up a new initiative I'm calling the Human Impact Department. Every major decision my companies make would go through your review to ensure we're considering the real-world effects on everyday people. But I don't know anything about business or technology. You know about people. You understand dignity, compassion, and how to see potential in everyone you meet. Those are skills you can't learn in business school. Elon leaned forward. Maria, in one night, you taught me more about true leadership than all my advisors combined. You saw through my disguise, not because you recognized my face, but because you truly see people. Just then the door chimed, and a young man walked in. He was tall, with kind eyes like his mother's, and he moved with the quiet confidence of someone comfortable with technology. He wore a simple hoodie and jeans and carried a worn laptop bag. Mom, he called out, looking around the nearly empty diner. Your shift ended an hour ago. I came to give you a ride home. Maria's face lit up. Marcus, come here, honey. There's someone I want you to meet. Marcus approached the table, politely nodding at Elon. Up close, Elon could see the intelligence in the young man's eyes, the same perceptive quality his mother possessed. Marcus, this is... Maria paused, still getting used to the reality of the situation. This is Elon Musk. Marcus looked at Elon more carefully, taking in the disguise that was now partially removed. His eyes widened with recognition and disbelief. The actual Elon Musk? From Tesla and SpaceX? That's right, Elon said, standing to shake Marcus's hand. Your mother has been telling me about your programming skills and your dreams of working in sustainable technology. Marcus looked between his mother and Elon, clearly trying to process what was happening. I don't understand. Why are you dressed like... And how do you know my mom? It's a long story, Maria said. But the short version is that Mr. Musk has been conducting an experiment and I've been his waitress tonight. Actually, Elon interjected, your mother has been my teacher tonight. He turned to Marcus. I'd like to see some of your work if you're willing to share it. Your mother mentioned you won a programming competition recently. Marcus's laptop was out of his bag almost instantly. With nervous excitement, he showed Elon several projects he had created, a renewable energy calculator, a small rocket trajectory simulator he had built for fun, and a program designed to optimize food distribution for local food banks. Elon was genuinely impressed. The code was clean, innovative, and showed exactly the kind of creative problem-solving he valued most. This food bank optimization program, did you implement this anywhere? Just locally, Marcus said modestly. I helped 3 food banks. In the area, reduce waste by 30% and serve 20% more families with the same resources. You did this on your own initiative? Well, Mom always taught me that if you have skills that can help people, you should use them. Elon looked at Maria with new understanding. Her influence on her son was evident in every line of code, every thoughtful feature designed to help others. This was the kind of thinking he wanted in his companies. Technology created not just for profit or innovation, but for genuine human benefit. Marcus, how would you like to join Tesla's software team? We're always looking for programmers who understand that technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. Marcus looked stunned. Are you serious? I'm still in college, I'm self-taught, I don't have any professional experience. You have something better. You have integrity, creativity, and a clear understanding of why the work matters. Plus, you have the best teacher I've ever met. Elon gestured toward Maria. Over the next hour, as the diner filled with morning customers, Elon explained his offer to Maria in more detail. The Human Impact Department would review all major corporate decisions through the lens of their effects on employees, communities, and society. Maria would have the authority to recommend changes to any policy or product if she felt it didn't meet standards of human dignity and benefit. But I would still want to work here sometimes, Maria said. This place, these people, they keep me grounded. Of course, Elon agreed. In fact, I think that's essential. The moment you lose touch with real people living real lives, you lose the perspective that makes you valuable. As word spread that Elon Musk was in the diner, a small crowd began to gather outside. But instead of rushing to leave, Elon spent time talking with George, who had woken up during the conversation. He learned about George's background as a skilled machinist and offered him a position at Tesla's manufacturing plant, along with housing assistance to help him get back on his feet. The teenage girl from the night before returned for breakfast before school. When Maria introduced her to Elon, they discovered she was interested in sustainable engineering. By the time she left for school, she had a scholarship offer and a summer internship opportunity. You know, Maria said as they watched the girl walk away with a new spring in her step. This is what real power looks like. It's not about having more than everyone else. It's about using what you have to help others reach their potential. 6 months later, Maria's Human Impact Department had revolutionized how Musk's companies operated. Employee satisfaction had increased dramatically, community relationships had strengthened, and innovation had actually accelerated as teams focused on solving real human problems. Marcus had become one of Tesla's most valuable programmers, leading projects that made sustainable technology accessible to lower-income communities. George had not only excelled in his manufacturing role, but had begun mentoring other employees who were getting back on their feet. And Elon? He still visited Mel's diner regularly, sometimes in disguise, sometimes not. But he never forgot the night when a wise waitress taught him that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the positive impact you have on the lives of others. The experiment had ended, but the real work was just beginning.